Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar entitled Cybersafety and Media Literacy with Attorney Joseph Noel Estrada. This event is brought to you by the CEAP 6 Regional Council and Rex Publishing Company. I am Mrs. Maricris Simpas, and I will be your moderator this morning. To begin, let us start with an opening prayer to be followed immediately by the Philippine National Anthem.
We stand before the grand horizon.
500 years of faith, grateful today.
We bear the gift of mission.
Totally yours, we give ourselves, faithfully yours until the end.
To your mission, Lord, we give our yes. Oh, where the sun rises above the hills, share the word and serve those who are in need. Let the morning star accompany your way, spread the fire of mission for the Lord. We stand before the grand horizon, 500 years of faith, grateful today. We bear the gift of mission, totally yours, we give ourselves, faithfully yours until the end. To your mission, Lord, we give our yes. We are gifted to give and live our gifts. Mercy, compassion, justice, and peace. Inside the world today will come to believe it's the love we have for one another. We bear the gift of mission. Mercy, compassion, justice, and peace. Stand before the grand horizon, 500 years of faith, faithful today. We bear the gift of mission. Totally yours, we give ourselves, faithfully yours until the end. To your mission, Lord, we give our yes. To your mission, Lord, we give our
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang mag-ibig, helas ng sinakanan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyak ka ng mag-ibig, sa manluluping, di ka pasisigil, sa nagatak tutok sa simoy at sa langit mong pagaw, ay hinatang tulakaw.
To welcome us to today's event, let us welcome the Rector President of Aklan Catholic College and CEAP 6 Regional Trustee, Reverend Father Jose Gualberto Villasis.
Good morning and welcome to the CEAP6 webinar on cybersafety and media literacy with Attorney Joseph Noel Estrada as our resource speaker. The era of COVID-19 pandemic is not simply a challenge in the physical and mental health of the world, but also the corruption of the ties that bind us together to our source and to one another. Reflecting on the words of the Holy Father Pope Francis in his encyclical letter on fraternity and social friendship, Fratelli Tutti, our world is threatened by the disintegration of the human dignity by exposing the details of other people's lives with his intention. In the encyclical he says, and I quote, "Everything has become a kind of spectacle to be examined and inspected, and people's lives are now under constant surveillance. Digital communication wants to bring everything out into the open. People's lives are combed over, laid bare, and banded about, often anonymously. Respect for others disintegrates, and even as we dismiss, ignore, or keep others distant, we can shamelessly peer into every detail of their lives." End of quote. It is in this context that we come together and tackle this affront to our relations. It is my honor to welcome you to the CEAP Region 6 webinar in the time of global crisis. And we thank the Rex Publishing Company for making this webinar a reality. It is our hope and prayer in CEAP Region 6 that all of you are in good health and safe from this invisible enemy that is seemingly insurmountable. It is an undeniable truth that it is a difficult time for everybody. As we take care of our families and communities, we likewise continue protecting and nurturing our academic communities as we face challenges in ensuring that education not just continue but evolve into something that can flourish in the present and future crisis. CEAP6 aims to empower our educators not simply as teachers but as influencers who are able to inspire learners to seek the truth that respects the dignity and wholeness of life. In this time of the pandemic, we zero into the primary tools we use to reach our learners. Just like any kind of tool created by men, cyber technology can be and is now being used against our favor as youth formators. As physical interaction is now replaced by remote interaction using the internet, our learners are immersed in the web and are exposed to myriads of information, both good and bad. The floodgates are open and information are released that when students consume without the proper examination can be potentially devastating, not just for the learner, but for the whole community. Where do our schools stand? If information is in our students' fingertips and they have a better way of accessing them than their teachers, what roles do teachers play? Let us remember that as educators, we have an enormous responsibility on our shoulder to lead and accompany the young, not just to counter the ill effects that come with digital technology. It is not enough that we teach. It is not enough that we show. We should maintain our presence in the lives of the young and accompany them in a world where information is vast, yet so little is understood. Let us find wisdom from the words of the Holy Father. And I quote, "The flood of information at our fingertips does not make for greater wisdom. Wisdom is not born of quick searches on the internet, nor is it a mass of unverified data. That is not the way to mature in the encounter with truth." End of quote. Once again, in behalf of the CEAP 6 Regional Council, I welcome you all to the CEAP 6 webinar on cyber safety and media literacy.
Thank you, Father Jobert. Just a couple of reminders. The link to the evaluation and certificate of this webinar will be posted in the comments section. After you click the link and accomplish the evaluation, a certificate for your attendance will be sent to your email after a few days or as soon as possible. Next, you may also post your questions for our speaker at the comments section. Kindly indicate the school and region where you are from, together with your question. I will read your question during the question and answer portion of this webinar. Now, let me give you a short backgrounder of today's speaker. Attorney Joseph Noel Estrada obtained his degree in political science at the Colegio de San Juan de Letran in 1999, where he graduated with honors. He earned his Bachelor of Laws degree at the University of Santo Tomas, Faculty of Civil Law, and was admitted to the Philippine Bar in 2005. In 2019, he completed an executive program on transforming higher education leaders through effective policy reforms at the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy at the National University of Singapore. Attorney Estrada is also the managing partner of Estrada and Aquino Law and is acknowledged as one of the legal luminaries who helped shape the legal and policy environment in education. Aside from helping draft several key legislations, he is a regular resource person of the House of Representatives and Senate Committees on Education and regularly represents private education in policy consultations with the Department of Education, Commission on Higher Education, and Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, or TESDA. Attorney Estrada is counsel and sits on the board of several educational associations and institutions. He regularly writes op-ed articles on education at the Manila Times. In 2017, he co-founded WireEd, which stands for Web Impact Redefining Education Policy, a forum for school leaders, teachers, and students discussing school and the digital age. In September of 2019, he released his second book entitled The Education Act, a compendium of Philippine education law, jurisprudence, practices, policies, and regulations, published by Rex Publishing. Finally, he is currently the managing director of the Coordinating Council of Private Educational Associations, or COCOPEA. And today, he will talk to us more about cyber safety and media literacy. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give a big virtual applause for Attorney Joseph Noel Estrada.
Good morning to all my friends in CEAP Region 6. Magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat, and especially to my friend Father Jobert Villasis. Thank you for arranging this, and also in partnership with Rex Publishing. Magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat and all of those who are tuning in to this webinar. The title of my lecture this morning is Internet Safety, Digital Citizenship, and Media Literacy. Some years ago in the United States, one girl sent a nude photo of herself to a boyfriend who circulated it widely and posted it online after they broke up. The other girl sent a topless image of herself to a boy she liked, who promptly shared it with all his friends, Both girls, unfortunately, eventually committed suicide. And there are many cases like this. I know, and I'm sure you have encountered stories, similar stories. And these are real cases. Also, some years ago, again in the United States, a 12-year-old Washington girl, 12-year-old, no, was sentenced to probation and community service for cyber stalking a friend, another 11-year-old girl. And she doctored a classmate's Facebook account with explicit photos and solicitations for sex. Imagine, 12 years old. The 12-year-old who pleaded guilty, and she was sentenced to 6 months of probation and 20 hours of community service, along with mandatory adult supervision of all her computer usage, according to the court. The girl also issued an apology, a public apology. But it's really alarming how it happened. This incident occurred after the students at that time were let out early from their school, and the victim's Facebook account was hacked into by 2 classmates and former friends, one of whom knew her daughters, one of whom knew the victim's password due to a previous login. A photo of the victim was posted, and a knife and blood aimed at her head, along with a set of horns, were doctored into the picture. The word slut was written across the bottom, and an image of condoms hanging on clothes wire was also posted. The girls then repeatedly sent out messages to people using the girl's Facebook account and chat, asking for sexual favors, and posted sexually explicit comments on other users' Facebook walls. And really, this is alarming, especially on the trauma on the victim, and also on the perpetrator. Imagine, just 12 years old. Also, just a few days ago, in the news, Nancy McDonough, 20 years old, had been secretly filmed while she was changing inside her dressing room. And she is now suffering from mental distress after the manipulated photos circulated online on Twitter and other social media platforms. She is more popularly known as Nancy of the K-pop group Momoland. You see, no one is really immune from all of these issues in the internet. And of course, pati ako, hindi ako na spare, no? Because some months ago, I also discovered that another person, no, using my photo and my image, and going by the name Attorney Marco Santiago, created this Facebook account and tricking people to believe that that person owns this image and this photo. So I was alarmed by this. It's really, it feels different when you are the one being subject of this cyber crimes, no? This may be considered as a cyber crime, the form of identity theft. And another one, no? I discovered another one going by the name Attorney Reynaldo Montemayor, also using my photo. that another person, no, using my photo and my image, and going by the name attorney Marco Santiago, created this Facebook account and tricking people to believe that that person owns this image and this photo. So I was alarmed by this. It's really, it feels different when you are the one being subject of this cyber crimes. No, this may be considered as a cyber crime, the form of identity theft. And another one, no, I discovered another one going by the name attorney Reynaldo Montemayor, also using my photo as his, and unfortunately this person was also able to scam people on Facebook, no? And so it was reported to me. So again, it is really alarming, and because now that education has migrated into many platforms, particularly digital platforms, including the internet and social media, and there is an increased interaction among students and among members of the academic community, it is now incumbent upon us educators to talk about internet safety. Alright, what is internet safety? As defined by Common Sense Education in 2018, internet safety, or also known as e-safety, includes knowing about one's internet privacy and how one's behavior can support a healthy interaction with the use of the internet. As simple as that. Knowing one's own privacy when using the internet, and the safety, and also how the behavior of a person promotes a healthy interaction in the internet. You know, our students and our educators, they are users of the internet, but more on consuming services, consuming products for commercial purposes, and of course for socialization. And we know all about these things, how to use the internet for consumption and the socialization. But researches show that students' skill in the use of technology for learning and creating is very limited. Not only for students, but also for educators. It is really very limited. That's why, because of the pandemic, everyone is now forced to adapt to teaching and learning using technology. No? We have found and discovered that other aspect of the internet and social media, that it can also be used as a platform for education. Unlike before, no, we only look at Facebook, we only look at social media, and of course the internet as a platform for socialization, not really for interaction of the members of the academic community. That's why we need to promote internet safety, because as I've said, there is an increased interaction and heightened activities of our members in the academe, the students, the teachers, educators, including the parents, on Facebook and other social media platforms, and the internet in general. Now, I'd like to share with you the manifestations of students who demonstrate internet safety. So, let me share this with you. Students who promote internet safety, they act responsibly and do not expose themselves or others to harm. Please take note, they do not expose themselves, no, to harm. Sometimes harm is not easily manifest or perceived, especially by our very young students. Akala nila it's okay to act on a certain at a certain standard or at a certain way when dealing and posting on social media sites. Sometimes when they copy pop figures, no, or personalities, sometimes they feel akala nila okay lang yun. They dance, they do these activities on Facebook, akala nila it's harmless, no? So it's our duty as educators to guide them so that they do not expose themselves or others to harm. Students who are also mindful and careful of online interactions, they're very careful on getting into online interactions, especially with strangers. They are aware of the permanent nature of online interactions. It will be tattooed. No? It will leave a digital footprint once you get into an interaction, especially those that you regret. All right? Students also ensure interpersonal interactions in cyberspace. They mirror face-to-face interaction expectations. Please take note of that. Although most people, they live a different kind of life, no, on social media and in person, no? Iba yung kanilang personality, they project a different image, but nevertheless, the interactions are the same. They mirror face-to-face interaction expectations, at least, no, please take note, expectations. So if you are complicit, no, you are not mindful of your interactions and your conduct on Facebook, that's how people expect you to be when you interact in person. So kahit bata ka, teenager ka, or you are a minor student, the way you act in the internet or on Facebook, that is how people would expect you to act when you are already in person. So please be very careful, all right, with your actions. Keep personal information and intellectual property protected also. Please take note, your personal information, that is very important. You have to take care of that. And for our teachers and educators, also, aside from the personal information that we share whenever we go online, aside from the video of our activities online, there's also that sharing of intellectual property which pertain to us, which may also be used without our consent, which may also be enjoyed by other people to our prejudice or in violation of our right, particularly copyright, no, as an intellectual property. Students also demonstrate as a form of internet safety when they protect against crime and do not put others at risk. Please take note. And students who recognize warning signs of cyberbullying. All right, here, these are just a few of those manifestations. Now, this is an interesting comic strip that I've also seen, and I usually use as an example in my presentations. There are two pigs, no? Sa ano ba tawag diyan, sa koral ang tawag sa Tagalog, no? Sa pig pen, they're having this conversation. Okay, so they were amazed because they don't pay anything. The two pigs don't pay anything for their barn, and they are given food for free. All right, sabi ng isang pig, isn't it great, we have to pay nothing for the barn? And the other one said, yeah, and even the food is free. All right, that is you and Facebook. Kayo po yan at ang Facebook. Or tayo yan at ang Facebook. Facebook sells your information, your likes, the pages you follow, the demographics of your friends, your apps, games, and sites that you share. With clever algorithms, Facebook and other social media can derive a lot of detailed knowledge about you from small, even from small things, no, about ourselves and about our families. There is nothing free in this world, not even social media. Please take note of that. And when you are not paying, please take note, no, whenever you think that it's free, but when you are not paying for it, remember, you are not the customer, but you are the product. So please take note of this. In digital platforms, whenever you enter something and it's free, please take note, you are the customer. You are not simply a customer in that site or in that platform. You are actually the product that is being sold. That's why you think it is free. All right? Okay, data is said to be the new oil. No? We live in an age in which collecting information is power. No? He who holds information about other people holds the power. That's why organizations collect information to build that power. They want to learn how to improve their products and services by using that data that they collect. They collect customer information to better target their customers and improve their sales. They collect data on their competitors to understand threats and opportunities. They also collect information to sell to other companies. But what happens when an unauthorized person or organization can get hold of someone else's information, of their most sensitive and valuable information? No. That is very alarming. That's why we are careful about hacking, di ba? We are very careful. We're trying to avoid, and that is a nightmare for everyone. Imagine waking up one day, somebody's using your account, whether it's Facebook, your email, or even your cell phone. Somebody has already breached your security, your informational security. That's why cybersecurity is very important. It is not just about hacking people's information or protecting our devices from continued digital attacks, but cybersecurity is also about protecting information within the digital device and cyberspace, which is actually more important. Yung laman ng mga devices natin and the information that we store in our Facebook account, in our social media accounts. Proliferation of cybersecurity threats was mostly driven by one key factor. Internet connection speeds became faster, cheaper, and more widely adopted, even in less economically developed countries. But should we shy away from this? Security and establishing security in cyberspace for the schools, we must take advantage of the benefits of digital age, but at the same time, we have to be careful, especially now that we are under the new normal. Before we can even take advantage of this platform for its educational benefits, we must learn first how to secure our platforms. We should first know how cybersecurity works. Otherwise, we will not be able to enjoy all the potential and known benefits of digital technology as a platform for education, because we will be constantly under threat of privacy violations. All right, now data is said to be like water that flows through plumbing. All right, or data or information. Just like the water that flows through plumbing, information flows through technologies. And that's why, di ba, yung plumbing, we always have to take care when there is a leak. Now, we have to plug those holes. No? Otherwise, there will be a leak of water. Ganun din po, when there is a leak of information intended to those that who were the authorized recipients of this data. For example, the schools, the students and the schools, the plumbing of information from the students and families to the schools, it should go directly to the schools. It should not be leaked elsewhere. So please take note, just like plumbing, we should ensure that there is no leak in the information, exchange of information in our educational systems. All right. Now, in protecting the security of our students and our members in cyberspace and in the internet, people are regarded as the weakest link in any cybersecurity measures. Do you agree with that? I think that is an acknowledged fact. Sabi nga nila, kahit ano pang bilhin mo na anti-hacking system, kahit gaano kaganda ang iyong data privacy policy or manual in the school, if you do not have trained faculty, you do not have this culture of privacy of personal information inside the campus, baliwala po lahat yun. Why? Because when teachers go into breaks, for example, or when they go into chat groups and they communicate, when they start talking about private information of students, baliwala, no? Baliwala yung ating mga anti-hacking, baliwala yung ating mga limiting access schemes, no, or modes, because again, it can easily be shared by people. People, again, are regarded as the weakest link in the cyber security, in any cyber security measure. The human factor, no, is always the easiest to target. Kaya dapat palakasin natin as we strengthen our technology, our platforms, no? As we protect it, we also strengthen the people that manage it. Strengthen and protect and train our educators to ensure that the privacy is not compromised through them, because people will always attack these people, because again, they are regarded as the weakest link in any cybersecurity. No? Social engineers, marami pong ganyan, no? Social engineers, yung they sweet talk you in order to share information, for you to share classified information. So you should be careful. All right, you might be, or you may be, the weakest link. So try to strengthen your knowledge, your awareness, and your techniques, no, in countering cyber threats or security in our schools. And again, as I've said, counterfeiting these cyber threats requires a focus on people, no? Because as I've said, they are the weakest link. Tayo ang weakest link. So it entails not only upgrades in technology, but focusing on people behaviors, our behaviors. Alam nyo, ang isang sa school, normally, kapag ang hirap ng technology, no, knowing how, especially our more senior teachers and faculty, when technology has become too complicated, or the platform becomes too complicated, lalo na before the pandemic, the tendency is they do not use it. They go back to the traditional, no? Hirap gumawa ng PowerPoint, hindi ko maintindihan, hindi ako makakonect sa TV or sa screen ng school, babalik na lang ako sa blackboard, chalk and blackboard, no? So we should focus on training them. Ngayon, because of the pandemic, we are forced, no, to migrate into that, because there is no other way for us to do it except through the use of technology. Now everyone's constrained to adopt technology in their delivery of education. All right. Now focus on that. Now focus on the human resource, on the human factor, as we also upgrade our technology. Here are some tips in terms of security awareness. All right, so for our teachers here and our educators, do not leave your computer or mobile device unlocked. This applies even when you're at home. Again, because some people may be able to access your device, and it contains personal information, not only of your personal information, but also information of your students and other people. Ito pa, dati don't drink and drive lang. Ngayon, don't text, don't drink and text. No? Never mix alcohol with using any digital device that can access systems at your workplace, because the following day you'll have regrets for sure. Bakit ko ba pinost yun? Bakit ba ako nag-send ng message sa crush ko? Or worse, sa estudyante. Naku. Never discuss or speak about work when intoxicated also. Please take note of that. Be aware that malicious software can be loaded onto your computer, no? Yung those that pick up your passwords or information in order to access your device. Be careful, because they really exist. Okay. Protect yourself. Protect yourself. Be alert to the fact that scams really exist. Mas mabuti na yung overly cautious kesa maging negligent or lax ka. Know who you're dealing with. If you're not sure, do not share classified information. Do not open suspicious texts, pop up windows, or click on links or attachments in emails. Delete them immediately if you do not know or trust these links or platforms. No? Kung suspicious, follow what you feel. Do not even click those links or open them. Delete immediately. Keep your personal details secure. Keep your mobile devices and computers also secure. Choose your passwords carefully. Wag naman 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wag naman yung birthday because everyone knows your birthday. Ang dali namang hulaan. Or your foundation day ng school. So, or your first name or your initials. Beware of any requests for your details, especially requests for money. Be careful also when shopping online. Ito. I got this also from education sites. These are some helpful tips. Alright. There are keywords. So be able to detect plagiarized works. This goes not only for the educators but also for the students. Be able to detect plagiarized works and in student assignments. So kasama yung parents. You should be able to tell your children and explain to them that they cannot just get content even from online sources. They should be mindful of intellectual property and the copyright laws. Curate web content for classroom learning. Alright? Use and provide students with task management tools to organize their work and plan their learning. Use polling software to create a real-time summary in class. These are things that can improve your teaching and your classroom management. Understand issues related to copyright, as I've said, and fair use of online materials. Generally, when you use it for education purposes, it is not violative of copyright or intellectual property. All right, but when you pass it up as your own, all right, like your own intellectual property, then it is sensitive of copyright and intellectual property laws. Ngayon, this issue has become more sensitive because of the learning modules, development of instructional materials, and some teachers and educators call the content of these learning materials from published books, all right, from colleagues also who have books published by Rex, for example. So we have to be mindful of when is it considered fair use and where is it considered as violative of copyright laws. That's another subject of lecture that I also give, but later na lang natin i-discuss yan some other time. Okay, find and evaluate authentic web-based content. All right, you should be able to find web-based content that are reputable, that are reliable, and that you can also share them with your students. You do not just get information from any site in the internet without validating its integrity and its reputation for sharing accurate information. All right, identify online resources that are safe for students browsing, and use file sharing tools to share docs and files with students online. So dapat ngayon hindi na excusable when we hear hindi ko ma-send because of size. Hindi ko ma-send sa'yo dahil hindi ko ma-attach sa email because of size. There are various ways now to do that, especially when you're talking about content sharing with students. So dapat alam natin yan how to use this sharing platforms and sharing tools for us to have seamless and more convenient and prompt sharing of student work and also content from our educators. Okay. Another e-safety tips that I got from the internet. People you don't know are strangers. Tell your students, people you don't know are strangers. They're not always who they say they are. That should be the default thinking or mindset. Be nice to people like you. Be nice to people like you would on the playground. Ibig sabihin, if you're not inclined to be close or nice to someone in person, you should follow the same instinct when you are online. If you're not likely to go with them or play with them, you tell your students, then do not get close to them virtually or online also. Keep your personal information private. I think we have said that many times already in this lecture. If you ever get that uh-oh feeling, tell a grown-up that you trust. So even if it's online. If a message pops up and you don't trust its source or it is suspicious, you should instruct your students to tell their teachers or advisors online. All right. That's why the next tip is also very important. Smart is the key word. Again, this is not mine from the key word is smart, or stay safe, don't meet up, accepting files, reliable with a question mark, and tell someone. All right, so stay safe. Don't give out your personal information to people, places that you do not know, places in the internet that you do not know. Don't meet up. Meeting someone you have only been in touch with online can be dangerous. Always check with an adult that you also trust. Always check with an adult, but with the qualification that you trust also. All right, not another stranger. Accepting files, accepting emails, files, pictures, or texts from people you don't know can cause problems. Reliable. Check information before you believe that it is the person or website telling the truth, or is the website telling the truth? Is the information reliable? Tell someone about it. Tell an adult if someone or something makes you feel worried or uncomfortable. All right. So please take note. Be smart. Tell your students always be smart. Tell your teachers always be smart. Okay, now just very quickly on plagiarism, because it is also very important, along with, of course, with intellectual property. Plagiarism is a growing problem in schools today, and in some of these instances, students truly do not understand the issue on plagiarism. They don't fully know what plagiarism is, and neither do they understand what the penalties are. And schools hold a high measure of responsibility for teaching the problems associated with this issue on plagiarism. Plagiarism is more on the more on the ethical side, more on the ethical side of intellectual property. No, so whether it is acceptable in the school, no, in terms of giving grades, or whether this is a form of a misconduct, or whether the teacher's performance is commendable, no? or not, because of the use of some plagiarized works, no? So more on the ethical side, kasi yung copyright, intellectual property is more on the legal side. You expose yourself to legal risks, to legal claims and cases, no? So hindi ibig sabihin that you are not committing a copyright or intellectual property violation. It doesn't mean that you are not plagiarizing, because again, plagiarism is more on the ethical side. You may be liable to your school for misconduct. You may be liable to your school for some offense as an employee or as a teacher, and a student also as such a student, no? Due to use of plagiarized works. Digital technology makes copying and pasting very easy, and of course, we all know that, but that is the least of it. The internet may also be redefining how students who came of age with music, file sharing, Wikipedia, and web linking understand the concept of authorship and the singularity of any text or image. So, do not forget the following so that you avoid online plagiarism. No? Just very briefly. Use quoting, paraphrasing, and citing of sources. Now, let's move on to another issue or topic, which is cyber safety. All right? School and student safety in the digital age. While schools can transform internet and social media as a tool for connecting with the students and online academic community, the use of this medium does not guarantee protection from abuses. Schools need not only ensure that it is safe, but likewise the schools must ensure that the students are safe through proper guidance. No, not only that the platform is safe, but the students are also safe from their own mistakes and lapses or unguided actions. But the problem is that some schools also fail to address the abuses online because they themselves are not acquainted with these online hazards. And that is what I will talk about on this topic. All right, the safety and security issues online. And I like to focus on 3 risky behaviors of students nowadays because they are always online. The issues on cyberbullying, harassment, and sexting. Cyberbullying is the same as bullying in person, except that it is now done through the use of technology, through cell phone, through internet, through social media. The same concept, except that it is done in cyberspace, which is of course should be addressed, should be prohibited, and the student should be protected from this risky behavior. And now, because of online platforms, bullying has become a thing, no? With students because they're always online. That's why we need to address this. And harassment is the same as or cyber harassment. It is almost the same as bullying, except that it is participated by adults. It is committed not only among students or colleagues, but also students against teachers or teachers against students. So it's not limited to student, not to student, because that is what bullying is. Remember, under the anti-bullying law, there can be no quote-unquote bullying of a teacher under that law. No, it is confined only to students. All right, but when we use the term harassment or cyber harassment, it covers everyone. All right, so it's the same as bullying. And of course, sexting. This is really a growing problem nowadays. All right, sexting needs to be addressed. Yung sexting, ito po yung sending nude photos, even green jokes, no? Sending a nude photo, a girl sending a nude photo of herself to her boyfriend in private, or a boyfriend sending his nude photo also in private. No? Yan po ay considered as sexting. Yung mga chats about sex, yan ay sexting. And it should be addressed. Now, sometimes the students feel that it is okay because it is done in private, but there are so-called sexting regrets. So when this gets leaked or when it is shared by one of the participants in that private message, then it leads to more problems, sometimes legal problems. Also, it leads to extortion, more often than not. Ako maraming ganyang stories. But I'd like to refer to you to some laws that address sexting and sexual harassment in the schools. First is the Sexual Harassment under Republic Act 11313 or the Safe Spaces Act. Remember, the schools are considered safe spaces, and there are prohibited acts there. And now, when we talk about sexual harassment in the school setting, it may be committed by a student against a teacher or even against a superior, against an administrator. Dati, sexual harassment may only be committed by a superior over a subordinate. No? That's why when they are colleagues, walang sexual harassment. But under the new law, which was only enacted in 2019 in July, sexual harassment may be committed by a student against a teacher or a student against another student under Section 16 of Republic Act 11313. And here are some of the gender-based online sexual harassment as prohibited under the Safe Spaces Act. Please take note, terrorizing and intimidating victims through physical, psychological, and emotional threats. And of course, walang physical sa online, but psychological and emotional is possible. Unwanted sexual, misogynistic, transphobic, homophobic, and sexist slurs, right, or remarks and comments online, whether it is sent in private or through direct private messages or publicly. It doesn't matter. if you send misogynistic or sexist messages to someone, even on direct messages, and you are part of the academic community or part of the school, you may be held liable under the Safe Spaces Act. Please take note of that. No? Invasion of the victim's privacy through cyberstalking and incessant messaging, uploading and sharing without the consent of the victim, any form of media that contains photos, voice, or video with sexual content. Please take note of that. Any unauthorized recording and sharing of any of the victim's photos, videos, or any information online is considered a crime under the Safe Spaces Act. Alright. Now, catcalling is also is an online offense or crime under the Safe Spaces Act. Yung catcalling, normally when it is done in person, ito yung tatawagin mong beautiful, sexy, di ba, pag may napadaan in a public street, no, or an alley. But it is possible that catcalling may also be committed in online platforms, no? Calling out victims, catcalling them, no? Also is it is possible, no? And catcalling is a prohibited act under the Safe Spaces Act. Of course, stalking, when you stalk someone on Facebook, that is also, it may also be considered a crime under Republic Act 11313. Stalking refers to the conduct directed at a person involving the repeated and visual or physical proximity, non-consensual communication, or a combination thereof. Alright? That cause or will likely cause a person to fear for one's own safety or safety of others, or to suffer emotional distress. Please take note, no, what defines the offense is the effect on the victim. No, kung ikaw ay laging merong nag-a-appear doon sa Facebook mo, no, people you may know, 'di ba? May ganun. Sabi nila, lumalabas daw yung people you may know kung ikaw ay chine-check out ng tao na 'yon. No? I don't know if that is true. But you know what is being referred to is you're always visible, you are stalking, no? You're always sending messages, unwelcome messages. Somebody posts something about you or comments on your posts, and these are again unwelcome, no? It causes you to fear for your safety and causes you emotional distress. That makes it stalking. Pero halimbawa, yung crush mo ay laging lumalabas sa people you may know at laging nagko-comment, at imbis naman na ikaw ay magkaroon ng emotional distress, ay ikaw naman ay nagkakaroon ng excitement, no? Heightened excitement, at ikaw ay natutuwa at inaabangan mo pa. Hindi yun stalking. It's not a crime because the effect is different on you. In fact, nagkakaroon ka ng emotional distress kapag feeling mo hindi chine-check out ni crush ang iyong mga post, no? But seriously speaking, stalking should have that effect on the victim, no, as mentioned or stated in the law. Otherwise, it is not stalking, no? It is not stalking. Please take note of this, of the next slide, about relentless request for one's personal details. Kasi isa Safe Spaces Act, kung ikaw ay naglalakad sa isang street at may stranger na nagtanong sa'yo, saan ka nakatira? Or kahit sa lalaki, no? Saan ka nakatira? Pwede ba kitang sunduin? Saan ka umuwi? Saan ka papunta? Diba? Anong pangalan mo? Anong cellphone number mo? Kasama yan sa prohibited acts under the Safe Spaces Act. Okay. Now, if it is done online, that's also a crime. So please take note of that. No? That's why I'm also, I think we should also, as educators, be careful about allowing our teachers and educators sending friend requests to our students, especially the minors. You should re-examine policies on that, school policies on that allow teachers to send friend requests or socializing with our students, no? For non-education related matters or issues. It's a platform for concerns, so, and issues. So dapat, I'm not saying that we disallow it, but there should be policies that promote healthy interaction, that promote the protection of students against risks of harm, no? All right, and of course, andito rin sa batas, persistent telling of jokes, sexual jokes, not any kind of joke, but sexual jokes, is also a crime under the Safe Spaces Act or Republic Act 11313. And be careful, maraming ganyan, maraming mga teachers and faculty who have this propensity of giving out sexual jokes, which may also be considered as intrusive or invasive of others, especially the students' privacy. Alright, please take to, mag-ingat kayo. Sexual jokes, persistent sexual jokes is also a crime under Republic Act 11313. Okay. Now, I already mentioned this, sending out friend requests to students. And, according to one study, as much as 90% of inappropriate teacher-student relationships start through texting or social media. That is also an important information for everyone, for us to be careful about this. Also with the parents, they should be worried about this, because they are the ones who have direct responsibility over their children insofar as the use of social media platforms, kasi nasa bahay yung mga bata. And after school, di ba? After now it's online, after their online tasks or classes, they are in the company of their parents, and this is the time that the students use the internet for socialization. They use Facebook. So dapat minomonitor yan ng mga parents, at they should control it. Mamaya may mga discussions pa tayo dyan. I'll just go briefly on this slide. This is about in another country, a faculty was found to have been using a pen camera, not a phone camera, a pen camera, to take photos of students, of their breasts and bodies for sexual purpose. It was learned later on. This has become a full-blown case, a trial in that country, and this is a landmark case. It has affected other jurisdictions' definition of public spaces, which incidentally also found its way in our own Safe Spaces Act, because schools now are considered as public spaces where the Safe Spaces Act also apply. So there are two key points on this case that I've mentioned. Yung incident na merong camera pen yung isang teacher, hindi alam ng mga estudyante, kinukunan pala sila ng picture for sexual purpose. Alright, so one is that privacy is not lost when one is in public. Alright, very interesting, because if you're in a public place, kasalanan mo na yan, kasi you do not expect privacy if you're in a public place. Kung ikaw ay maghubad dyan at makunan ka ng picture, kasalanan mo yon. There is no expectation of privacy there. Pero ito, sinabi dito sa kaso na ito, the privacy is not necessarily lost when one is in public, especially when there is the use of technology and it's relevant to the privacy assessment. Katulad nito, you should feel safe because in public, diba, no one should also be taking secretly a video or a photo of you. So when that happens, there's also that violation of your privacy. And it's not your fault. It is not your fault that you have exposed yourself unknowingly to these devices that captures photos or films you doing whatever, and it is intended for a sexual purpose. Then your violation is your privacy has been violated. Also, this has the potential to make a broader social impact, particularly in an era of internet-connected devices, discrete surveillance technology, deepfakes, and other non-consensual distribution of images. What does it tell you? You have to be careful, even when you are interacting, quote-unquote, publicly. Last year, not too long ago, during the pandemic, merong nasa news na isang biker na nagbabike sa UP campus. Meron siyang camera at nagkumukuha siya ng random photos of people running, biking also in UP. Pero napansin ng isang netizen na yung mga kinukunan niya ng picture ay mga babae lang, good-looking girls, and mostly minors, and they do not know it. Ina-upload yan sa isang Facebook page, no? And syempre ang sabi naman ng biker is ano naman yan, walang malis, no? Taking random photos, no? But may nag-complain, no? And because they do not know that they've been subject of this photo taking, and they're being posted on social media account, no? So that is a potential case for violation of the Safe Spaces Act. Now, for more information of security measures that you can have in your schools, please take note of this public advisory from the DOJ, no, on the conduct of online classes using video conferencing services. So this can supplement your own school policies, no? Marami akong na-encounter na request for assistance recently, no? Kasi may mga nagzo-zoom bomb, no, na yung nag-gate crash sa mga online classes tapos nagpo-post ng bastos. So kung ikaw ay on the part of the school, you have to ensure that those who are able to join are students only. Yung Zoom, hindi yan basta-basta na-hack. That is really a secure platform. Ang problem is again human factor. No, kung password protected yan, dapat you ensure that students are not able to share them to strangers or people that they do not know, or even to their classmates. Kasi mag-away ang mga yan or nagkaroon ng problema, it may be used, no, to impersonate the one who is really who really owns that Zoom account, no? So yan ang ensure niyo. Pangalawa, when the educators create a link, no, for online classes like Zoom, yung link na yon should only be shared to students, and you have to be sure that you are sharing it only to students. So do not share it in public platforms or chat groups katulad ng Messenger. Hindi secure yun eh. No, some people may be able to see that link and may be able to join, copying the name of one of your students, for example, no? Because that is also an actual case that I've encountered recently. So anyway, please do your own readings on this public advisory of the DOJ in the conduct of online classes in educational institutions. All right. Now, other crimes related to online. All right, meron tayong cybercrime prevention law. Please take note of that. Cybersex, child pornography, when it is committed with the use, of course, of technology and cyberspace, the penalty is 1 degree higher, no? Yung child pornography, for example, when it is using the internet or cyberspace, it's 1 degree higher. And other crimes, no, that may be committed with the use of the internet and cyberspace, 1 degree higher yan. Also, sexual harassment and abuse in relation to anti-photo and video voyeurism law. Now, when you take a photo or video of a person who is engaged in sexual activities or intimate activities, tapos hindi niya alam, that's a crime. That's anti-photo and video voyeurism. And even when there is consent, no, by one of the participants in that sexual act, meron siyang consent na i-video yon, no? But it was eventually published or broadcasted publicly, that is still a crime kahit nagbigay ng consent dun sa taking. Pero walang consent dun sa broadcasting or publishing. Of course, meron ba namang taong nagbibigay ng consent doon, no? To share it, to share such private moment to the public, no? And of course, when the subject of pornography is a child, again, it is another crime, which is anti-child pornography law. Now, moving on, the Data Privacy Act. We're still on cybersecurity, ano? The Data Privacy Act, this time securing our personal information. You already know this, no? Yung information that students share to our school should be protected. It should not be shared to others without the students and their parents' consent. And it can only be used or processed for the declared purpose or purposes, not for any other purpose, and only for purposes related to their education. If it is used for some other purpose, there should be prior consent. Alright? That is the mandate of the Data Privacy Act, because schools are considered personal information controllers or PICs, and our students and even our employees and our teachers, our faculties, school personnel, staff, they are considered as data subjects, our data subjects. So we have to be mindful of our responsibility to protect their personal information that they share to us. Okay, but this is also very important, no? So if you're a student or you are someone who's always online, no, in these social media platforms, please take note that the Supreme Court in several cases already said that there is no expectation of privacy over social media posts. What does it tell you? When you post something on Facebook, you have to be responsible on what you post. When a student posts something on the Facebook and it violates school policy on discipline or conduct, then the student may be subject to such disciplinary action, and the student cannot simply claim violation of its privacy. Hindi niya pwedeng sabihin na yung post ko is not for the school but for some other persons, no? Because again, the Supreme Court said there is no expectation of privacy over social media posts. Kung makita yan ng school authorities, you may be held responsible if you posted something inappropriate. And of course, when you post something that's considered an offense or a crime, you cannot hide behind privacy principles, no? But of course, in the regular or the usual operations of the school, hindi naman pwede nilang gamitin yung mga posts ng bata, no? For educational purposes unless the students and the parents gave their consent or they have signed onto that school policy, no? Yung mga sinasabi ko are isolated cases when students post something that is inappropriate or violates school policy on discipline. They may be subject to disciplinary action, and the student cannot raise privacy issues. All right. Now, another matter that I'd like to share with you in relation to data privacy is sharenting. Sharenting is a term used to describe the ways many parents share details about their children's lives online. In a journal entitled Sharenting, Children's Privacy in the Age of Social Media, in 2017, the author raised the issue that there is an ample discussion focused on the threats of children face when they are online, and yet little discussion is centered at the parents' choices to publish information about their children in the virtual world and its effects. Parents should be gatekeepers of their children's privacy and personal information. This is something that our parents should know. Yung sharenting, this is the practice of sharing, the parents sharing personal information of their children online, putting them at risk also. No? So, why? Because there is no opportunity for the minor student, lalo na yung mga very young, tender age, they have no opportunity to give their consent or object to the post of their mommy or daddy or both, no? And lalo na kung wala naman silang Facebook account, hindi nila alam na they are being subject of the post of the parents. So this is a practice that is being discouraged, or the parents are encouraged to take the necessary precaution. Always think of your children before you post something. Is this post about them harmful to them, or is a potential risk in terms of their privacy, whether now or in the future? No? Pagka laki kaya ng anak mo at nakita niya itong post na ito, matutuwa kaya siya? Yun ang lagi may tatanong. Actually, ako as a parent, as a father, I am guilty of this sharenting many times over, no? Yan ang ano ko ngayon, ang aking kinatutuwaan, trolling my kids, especially my youngest, no? But well, this is also a note to me. I have to be careful about this, no? It may damage the future of my child or my children if I post something inappropriate or something that violates my child's privacy. So again, this is for everyone. It's not only for you, but also for me. Now, the parents' role to ensure their children are it is the parents' role to ensure that their children are good netizens. No? Please take note of that. It's not only the responsibility of the school, but the responsibility of the parents as well. All right. Now, this is something that I have also shared earlier. So this is also relevant in terms of protecting privacy. No? in at home, no? Because again, as I've said, in any organization, but also at home, no? Humans are considered the weakest link. So we have to be mindful of that. We have to train ourselves. We have to equip ourselves with the necessary information and awareness, no, for us parents, to ensure that we are not compromising the privacy of our own children and as students, no, when they interact with the members of the academe. Now, for further readings and guidance, especially the schools who are in need of policies that would help supplement what they already have in place in their schools, please read the National Privacy Commission Bulletin number 16, the privacy's do's and don'ts of online learning for K-12 and college students, parents, guardians, teachers, and schools. So very instructive. No? The COCOPEA also participated in giving comments on this bulletin, so it's really very helpful. No? But again, this is not taking away the right of the private schools to promulgate their own rules. No? So you can use some of this to supplement whatever you have in place. All right, but at the end of the day, it is your duty to put in place the policies that you think can help in respect to protecting the privacy of information of your students, and that you are responsible, no, for processing their personal information and in protecting their privacy against persons who have no business in getting their the personal information of your students. All right, so please take note of the NPC Bulletin number 16. Try to research. Is available in the internet and the website of the NPC. Very instructive, very helpful for us in the academe. All right, let's talk about digital citizenship naman, no? After cybersecurity, let's talk about digital citizenship, no? Hindi lang senior citizenship ang important ngayon, no? And Filipino citizenship, but also digital citizenship. Learning how to participate civilly in online discourse or activities and collaborate virtually are essential components of digital citizenship that prepare students for the workforce and the complex global society of the future. Students must be digital citizens who understand that technology they use produces a permanent record of their thoughts and actions. This record becomes an imprint or a tattoo that will follow them throughout their lives. No? Also known as digital footprints. Now, whatever is posted there in the digital world circulates, goes around, comes around, bounces here and there, and it may affect your future. No, for students, it may affect their future studies and even their employment, because it's not a secret anymore that when you submit an application for work or an application for further studies, the institution does not only look at what you have submitted in your CV or in your biodata. They actually Google you, they search for you online to look at how you are, no, in the digital world, no? Because again, it says a lot about you. So be careful if you want to have some positive effect or impact through the internet, through cyberspace. There's a positive impact on your future career or studies. Always have a certain standard of conduct. Be a good person in person or online, whether in person or online, because again, whatever is posted there affects your future, your career, and your studies. So be careful in sharing your photos or videos. Always remember, a person who places a photograph on the internet is deemed to have intended to forsake and renounce all privacy rights to such imagery. We're talking about the same person posting it or sharing it. It's not another person sharing it on your behalf. Ikaw mismo ang nag-post. No, so it is presumed that you are waiving whatever privacy that you have on that photo, that you're sharing it to everyone, that they can use it for whatever purpose. They can view it for whatever purpose. Of course, they cannot use it to commit a crime, but you have generally forsaken whatever privacy right you have over that photo of yours or video of yours because you are the one who posted it, no? And who shared it. All right, being a good digital citizen is also someone who has who is aware of his environment, the technology, the digital environment, the use of the technology, the platform, no? You are aware of it and you are conscious about it. Otherwise, it may also put you at risk. It can also start an unhealthy environment or relationship, no? So yan ang lagi natin sinasabi. Anyone is prone to mistake if you are not aware of the environment where you are at, regardless whether you are a student, an educator, or even known persons, no? As in this case that I'm showing here in the slide, no? A US analyst falls into this nude Zoom mishap. So while this legal analyst was online, he was actually seen masturbating during a conference call with colleagues about the then incoming presidential elections in the United States. And very embarrassing. He didn't know that the camera was still on. No, 70s na yata itong news anchor na to, a lawyer also. So, sabi ko nga sa inyo, if you're not aware of the environment, the technology that you use, then you're not a good digital citizen, no? And it can expose you literally and expose you also to crimes and even claims, and it may cost you your work, no? So you have to be very careful. Huwag na kayong lumayo dito sa atin sa Pilipinas, diba? Merong isang barangay captain also, no, who has committed a crime, no? When he forgot to turn off the camera of Zoom, and while in a meeting with counselors, he was seen there in the video committing a lewd act, lewd sexual act. So anyone may fall prey to this, no? Also in another news, in another country naman, no? A businessman accidentally appeared naked on a Zoom conference call with the Brazilian president because he forgot to turn off his camera. Also, he was seen kissing his partner's breast during the video conference, no? It's unfortunate. Ito naman, hindi yata ito sa Pilipinas. It was only shared to me. Imagine a student while attending an online class, and then the parent comes in with no underwear, no? It is shown in the background of the photo or the video, no? So again, being a good digital citizen requires you to be more aware of your environment that may expose you at risk and others at risk. All right, let's move on. Media literacy is also important. This is the last of the topic or the topics on now, this time on media literacy. What is media literacy? It is equivalent to critical thinking. All right, media literacy. Okay, students must be literate, media literate, and literacy can no longer be defined as just the ability to read and write from printed materials. It should expand to include digital literacies that incorporate information and communication technologies. Media literate students can use multiple forms of media to create, communicate, and differentiate fact versus fiction. And I think that is the most important part of media literacy, not only to use, not only to create content, but be able to discern and differentiate what is fact from fake news. Media literacy is the ability to access, analyze, evaluate, again, create, and act using all forms of communication. And media literacy means anything from interpreting emojis now, no? Alam nyo ba lahat ang ibig sabihin ng emojis, no? Laughing emojis, crying emojis, to understanding underlying messages in online advertisements, to producing viral video content and recognizing native advertising. It is important for us educators to help our learners develop critical thinking skills. Again, as I've said, media literacy entails critical thinking. They should understand the impact of media messaging has on themselves and on the society as a whole. Teachers should also teach students to evaluate the validity of words, produce original content, and use their voice to improve the media landscape and all those affected by a send, upload, or tweet button. Essential skill, media literacy is one of them. It is an essential digital navigation skill. The digital age has made it easy for anyone to create media or create content, but we don't always know who created something. All right, we should know first when we read a content online. We should first know who created it so that we understand whether it's credible and for what purpose. All right, that is what we mean by critical thinking. All right, this makes media literacy tricky to learn and to teach. Nonetheless, media literacy is an essential skill in the digital age. Media literacy sounds like a practical skill understood by everyone with internet access, but it is astounding how many online users are unaware of their impact on others and their own susceptibility to media manipulation. All right, so fake news. What is fake news? Any news story which is untrue or that is not actual news, or when it is presented, all right, to us, to an unsuspecting audience, it is presented as fact, all right, or a recent phenomenon. So, for example, when a news on totoong news, no, that but it happened or some time ago, many years ago, for example, no, and it was being shared now, no. Kung ikaw, you are unsuspecting, you're not aware, you're not checking the date, akala mo it's current news, no. So that's also a form of fake news. All right. So again, passing it on as a fact or as a current event is what makes it as fake news when it is not accurate or when it's not a fact. So can you differentiate truthful or accurate information from false or deliberately misleading messages? If you can, then you are media literate. Okay. So how do you spot fake news? Consider the source. All right. Read beyond the headlines or captions. Madalas ba kayong makabasa ng sa internet ng minsan nakalagay doon, you will not believe what she said, no? Kala mo kung ano, but when you read the content, wala naman pala, no? So it's a clickbait, no? Maraming ganyan, clickbait, so that you click the link. Kailangan catchy. So read beyond. Check the author. Is the author credible? All right. Is the author somebody who has this expected bias on something, no? Ano ba yan? DDS ba yan? Or LP ba yan? No? So, alam mo kung saan siya nanggagaling. You're able to contextualize it. So, alam mo yung leanings niya on certain issues. No? And supporting sources, check the link. Minsan, may sa mga binabasa ninyo, may mga readily available links doon. So, you can fact check if it is really a legitimate source of information. Totoo kaya yon, no? Yung mga sinasabi dun sa article. Also, check the date, as I've mentioned earlier. Check the date. Is it current news or not? Baka akala mo ngayon yan, no? And pala matagal na. And when it is presented on a different timeline, it's very inaccurate, no? It is misleading. Okay? And of course, check whether it is a satirical site or link. Is it a joke? Totoo ba yung sinasabi yan? Or alam mo namang nag-joke lang, so do not take it seriously. And also check your own bias or biases. Baka naman ikaw yung nagkikreate ng fake news, no, because of your own bias or biases. And if you're not sure about what you're reading, ask the experts. Ask the librarian in your school. Ask your teacher. Ask your advisors. Ask experts about it. Alright? What media literacy could do? Media literacy, if it is developed by our educators and our students, you are able to learn to think critically. You become a smart consumer of products, and not only products, but consumer of information that's passed around. You are able to recognize point of view of other people. You are able to create media responsibly, and you are able to identify the role of media in our culture, particularly in the education setting, you understand also the author's goal. No? So that is what entails critical thinking and media literacy. Yung pong aking katulad, I'm sure you're also aware of my page, Facebook page, where I share information about education, mostly on laws and mga proposed bills in Congress and other educational issues. What I share there are legal information. Minsan nakakatuwa, parang when I share those information, yung makikita mo sa mga comments, how people perceive it. So minsan yung iba, they ask me, aren't you bothered with some of the negative comments there? I always say na, you know what I shared there, these are legal information that are verifiable, that they can always validate it. And what people comment or post there reflect their own perception of what I share. Is not necessarily of what I have posted. I'm very careful with that. Sa akin naman, when I share legal information, especially in education, it's up to the readers to form their own takeaway from those posts. Now, if you're media literate, you would be able to spot what is helpful to you, what is being conveyed, and what can be passed around, because that is what media literacy does. And finally, I like to share with you the current environment that we have now, the digital world. Recently, this UK think tank, a London-based UK think tank, on social media, released its recent results, that 76 million Filipinos are social media users. Kasama na tayo doon. And 75 million are on Facebook. Alright, yung another 1 million probably on other platforms like IG, like Twitter, but mostly are Facebook users. And that we Filipinos spend an average of more than 4 hours a day on social media sites. We are number 1 globally since 2016, so consistently in the last years that we are on the top 50 countries, on the top of the 50 countries who participated in the survey. And that, what does it tell us? That we have to be able to teach our communities, education communities, to use social media and this platform for learning, for education. And that we should be able to catch up to our students faster than Facebook and other social media sites. Alright, and another takeaway that I like to share with you is that education in the digital world should place more emphasis on what is being received rather than on what is being delivered. So less concern on the system, education system, but more on the what is being received and retained by our students through many sources of knowledge. Okay, less on the educator, less on the system, more focus on the learners. Learning, kung nakikita nyo, continuity in education, continuity in learning, na magkaiba po yun. Learning continuity, kaya yun ang tawag rather than continuity in education. Because learning, in the term learning, the focus is on the learner rather than on the system or on the educator. And that is what we need now. We need to focus on the essentials. We need to focus on the learner and less on the system, less on the platforms. Ngayon, according to an expert, si Dr. Ed Fermin, in one of his lectures with us, he said that thinking out of the box for educators is so pre-COVID, because the in thing now is for educators to create their own box or boxes, and you focus and you try to be good in that box there is no one size fits all. There is no silver bullet as an antidote for COVID-19 pandemic and disruptive technology in education. We have to develop our own platforms. We have to innovate. All right, we have to be agile. We have to be able to thrive, and adapt to these changes in our education environment. So with that, I'd like to end and thank everyone I hope you are able to get information that are useful to you and to your communities, education communities. And lastly, I'd like to promote my book, if it's okay, since Rex is our sponsor, one of the sponsors here and organizers. My book is still available. My book, The Education Act. All right. This is a rich source of legal information. Yung mga lagi kong dinidiscuss, andyan po yan. And again, you can form your own takeaways from this. It will really help a lot the institution and its educators. It's available online at www.rexestore.com and in all Rex bookstores nationwide. Maraming salamat po ulit. Magandang araw.
Thank you, Attorney Estrada, for the relevant and informative talk. I am sure that all those watching from all over the Philippines learned a lot, myself included. To our viewers, you may post your questions for our speaker at the comment section in Facebook and YouTube. Kindly indicate the school and region where you are from together with your question. Remember that the link to the evaluation and certificate of this webinar will be posted in the comment section. After you click the link and accomplish the evaluation, a certificate for your attendance will be sent to your email after a few days or as soon as possible. Again, this event is brought to you by the CEAP 6 Regional Council and Rex Publishing Company. Okay, so at this point, we will have our question and answer portion. When I view the comment section, lahat ho sila nagpapasalamat, attorney, sa iyong very informative talk. Thank you, thank you. Okay, ang first question dun sa comment section, attorney, will this be available, the talk or your slides, I guess, will it be available for them?
Well, una, I'd like to thank muna Ma'am Tina, yung ating mga viewers, those who joined us in this webinar. Kamusta kayo? Maraming salamat for joining us this morning. At gusto ko tuloy magbati kaya lang baka hindi ko mabati lahat. Kasi hindi questions, puro bati ang nandun sa comment section natin. Lalo ko tuloy na-miss na mag-travel, no, because of our CAP seminars and lectures. Lalo na dyan sa Region 6 kasi nandyan yung Boracay. At anyway, yung copy ng presentation, I'll just coordinate with the CEP Secretariat. I'll give instructions on how you can get a copy of the presentation. I'll probably just modify a few slides. No? Some of the slides kasi walang content walang text. So I think mas importante yung text, di ba? Kaysa yung mga photos. And some photos kasi are licensed also. So I asked permission for it. No? So I just don't know if I can pass it around also. So sure, no? Pero wala, yung iba naman diyan hindi na bago. Pero alam nyo, may mas magandang paraan para lahat ng sinabi ko diyan ma-review niyo. Kuha kayo ng The Education Act. may may plugging pa, no? Kuha kayo ng libro ko. Marami doon, maraming key takeaways on education principles. Okay, so let's look at the questions or comments, kahit comments na lang so we can have some discussion kung hindi natin masyadong naipaliwanag during the lecture. Thank you.
Okay, attorney. Actually, attorney, ako yung unang question kasi ako nagtuturo rin. And based on yung doon sa notice ho ng DOJ, parang hindi kami required na pabuksan yung camera ng mga estudyante. Pero mas madali sanang mag-class kung open sana yung cameras ng mga students. Is there a way for schools and teachers to require na buksan yung camera ng students without going against the data privacy and their privacy?
Okay, it's like this, ano, yung pong I think you're referring to the National Privacy Commission bulletin, no, on the do's and don'ts. Yun naman po, this may supplement yung policies ng mga schools ninyo, ang mga schools natin. Kasi yung authority to promulgate rules, yan po ay authority yan ng schools eh. No, hindi yan subject to authority ng any government entity. No? So kung basic education yan, tawag natin yan dyan, authority to promulgate its own rules and regulations. Kung higher education naman yan, ang tawag natin dyan academic freedom. No? That is constitutionally guaranteed. How you run your affairs, ikaw ang gagawa ng rules dyan. But yung mga sinabi po ng nilagay po doon ng NPC, na by the way, kasama po yung tayo dyan, yung Kokopeya, we also submitted our comments. It's very good, it's very instructive. Kaya lang ang sinasabi natin, it's not literally na you have to follow it that you're already barred from coming up with your own guidelines. Kasi ang bottom line is you have to ensure the safety of your students, their privacy. That's the bottom line. Kung paano mo gagawin yon, you have that latitude and discretion to do that as a school. Now, going back dun sa specific na whether you can open or close, nakalagay naman doon as much as possible. Di ba? Hindi naman sinabi na absolutely hindi mo pwedeng pabuksan. You know, when I just want to share to everyone, alam niyo, when like for example, when I attend, and pati sila Sister Marisa and our CEAP officials, you know, when we attend an important meeting with the government, for example, no? Now with the IATF and all of this, yung mga hindi public hearings, no? Whenever we attend, alam niyo ang lawyer din kasi yung nagpe-preside, baka kaya meron kaming similar thinking. As sinasabi is, do not use virtual background. Do not turn off your camera. In fact, sa amin, sa law office, when we do consultation, we don't allow them to turn off the camera unless necessary. No? You ask permission, low signal, etc. Or you have to go somewhere, you have privacy issues, you have to say it. Pero the general rule is, dapat open yan. Why? Because if you're into safety and security reasons, dapat open yan. Applying it to students. How can this teacher be assured that the student is safe wherever he or she is if the camera is turned off or using a virtual background? Pangalawa, yun kasing pag online ng mga bata using cameras, that's not a one-time thing. It is not an isolated activity. It is part of the delivery of education. All right? So, may na yan, may agreement na yan pagpasok pa lang ng bata when they sign off into the enrollment forms and enrolled. Okay? I'm saying this because when the students enrolled in the institution and they know that the school is delivering synchronous classes, yeah? Not asynchronous, not modular. Obviously, they expect that the camera should be turned on. How can you implement a synchronous mode of delivery if the camera is not turned on? Diba? How will you know that they are participating real time? No? So, ibig sabihin doon, hindi naman ito nagulat ka na nag-participate sa activity at sa pina-turn on yung camera at nagulat ka and you do not give consent. It's not like that. But there are certain activities in the school that possible hindi na pinata-turn on yung camera. Like for example, in some of my client schools, baka nandito sa atin nanood, no? In some activities na kahit naka-Zoom, hindi required mag-camera. Ano yon? Parent-teacher conference. Example. You are not required because you're talking about the kids. You don't need to see the parents. You don't need to be assured of their safety. They're adults. They're presumed to be at home. Di ba? Yung mga ganon. But merong ibang reason for the kids. So again, you can contextualize those guidelines given by the DOJ and NPC and supplement it with your own guidelines. The bottom line is you just have to be assured of the safety and security of students. Yun ang bottom line. No? Because even if you flip the argument, if you follow it to the letter, yung guidelines na yan, and something happened to the student, it will not absolve you from any liability because there can still be proof of negligence on your part. All right? So, you take these guidelines, these are very instructive, lalo na yung zero rules, wala pa talaga. They're starting from scratch. Maraming mga schools sa ganyan, they're looking for something to start with. This is a very good but I cannot say that it addresses all circumstances and situations, and it cannot override your institutional policies if you find it naman reasonable. So I hope I'm empowering the educators for you to decide on this, because you will be guided naman by that intention to secure the safety of students. Hindi naman tayo yung we are not the evil that the students and parents are trying to avoid. Even if we see the kids, hindi naman tayo yung third party, hindi naman tayo yung public na sinasabing mababiolate ang privacy nila. 'Di ba? Hindi schools 'yon. Kasi kailangan natin yung presence nila but we need to avoid violation of their privacy of other persons, yung mga third parties, yung mga Zoom crashers, 'di ba? Yung mga hindi dapat nandun sa class, Pero kung necessary for education, dapat makita nila. Nakalagay naman nandoon if possible pupunta sila sa CR, they need to do whatever, bathroom break, or there's an activity that doesn't require the presence, of course they can turn it off. All right? Sige. I hope that's clear. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, attorney. So for schools, and that was one of the questions in our chat box, if they can require students to turn on their cameras. I think that was clearly answered already. Okay, here's a question. Now that we are facing the new normal, what are we going to do if the teacher is bullied by the students through online? Siguro ito yung bashing, ano daw ang gagawin kung binabash ng students ang teacher online, and maybe the opposite, pero siguro it's more on the teacher. Yung teachers hindi siguro masyadong marunong, or baka kaya sila nabibiktima ng bashing. So yun yung question, attorney, I guess, and what are we going to do if the teacher is being bullied by the students online?
Okay, before I go into legal discussions, ito muna, very practical. What you cannot do or what you are not allowed to do in person as a student, you are also not allowed to do it virtually or online. All right? Bashing the teachers, try to do it inside the campus, try to do it inside the classroom. May kalalagyan ka, di ba? Because you have a student discipline policy, you have a student handbook, di ba? You have a prescribed standard, for discipline, for values in the school, and you cannot do that. Now, if you want to be more explicit, magkaroon na yung school ng social media policy to define, including the conduct and misconduct online, di ba? Pero kahit wala yun so yung misconduct na yon, yung disrespect, if the post is, if you're talking about bashing and disrespecting, it will fall under one of the yung mga offenses, di ba? Pero kung bashing naman, sabihin natin bashing ang tawag, pero it's just a simple disagreement, wala na, they should not be charged with anything. They should not be disciplined for disagreeing. Freedom of speech and expression pa rin tayo, as long as they observe certain norms of conduct naman that is allowed by the school. Now, going to more legalese, kung yung bashing na yan amounts to sexual harassment, online sexual harassment, as the provided in the Safe Spaces Act, yung diniscuss ko kanina, pwedeng mag-file yung teacher, bullying in the sense of harassment, yung stalking, catcalling. May mga ganyan estudyante, kinakatcall ang mga teachers online, di ba? That makes it uncomfortable for them, di ba? They feel unsafe. So it may fall under that. Or it is a cyber harassment. Merong minsan may bata nag-post pinost yung picture ng teacher niya, tapos ilagyan na ng sungay, etc. Tapos gumawa ng fake account, tapos nagsusulisit ng date, no, sa mga pinas around. That is a cyber crime. That may fall under cyber harassment. Walang cyber bullying per se, no, but harassment using cyberspace is a crime. It falls under one of the crimes under the Cybercrime Prevention Act. So yan yung mga pwedeng gawin. Kung yun naman pang babash, yung comment doon is libelous, it's also a cyber libel, di ba? Ano pa ba? Nag-post ng bastos, no? Ganun din. Or nag-post ng hindi tungkol sa teacher pero sa kaklase, ganun din. Maybe child pornography if it involves a child, di ba? Or it may fall under the Safe Spaces Act. So marami naman tayong maraming causes of action diyan. But again, I always say this between an innocent act, no, and an illegal act, malaki yung gap, no? There is something in between, no? Ibig sabihin kung it's not illegal, di ba? Wala kang magagawa doon, you cannot file a case. Meron kasing in between Yung in between na yon, that is an area for institutional policy, for school policy. That's where you come in. You define what is inappropriate because it may not be illegal but it is inappropriate, no? As defined by the school. So doon kayo maglagay. So I go back to my suggestion. Come up with policies that regulate the conduct of your students. All right? Social media policy is one of them. Okay?
Okay, thank you, attorney. I think that's very timely. No, many of our schools probably are caught unaware of how to do the social media policies, no? Kasi biglaan tayong nag-online classes. But I guess, I hope everybody took that, no? That we really need to come up with our own social media policies. Meron, attorney, two questions na medyo connected on the use of an IP address. So if a student who made another account committed an infraction and we have traced him through his IP address, can the school give him a disciplinary case? And then there's another question related dito from De La Salle Zobel. What can be considered as conclusive evidence if IP address is not enough for a student's case on identity theft? So it's both on identity theft and the use of the IP address.
Okay, ganito, no? So just to simplify the discussion, una-una kasi sa mga, if it's an investigation for purposes of student discipline, you don't have to go through this conclusive evidence, yung standard of evidence, no? Like the one you prepare in courts and commission of crimes. Because in the school setting, you just need to be satisfied, no, that there should be substantial proof, not even evidence, proof that it is really the student that did it. It can be circumstantial, di ba? It can be circumstances, events that would lead the school to believe that it is really the student who sent that, who posted that, etc. Now, yung IP address, etc. Kung tingin niyo it will develop into a legal case, magpunta na kayo sa, there are law enforcement agencies that do that. They have that expertise. Magko-cooperate na lang kayo, no? Instead of tracing may yung problema mo sa IP, conclusive ba yan? Go to the Cybercrime Division of the PNP and or NBI, no? For purposes of if you really want to be satisfied. Pero hindi ko sinasabi na just to discipline a student, go to that extent. If you have enough substantial basis, no, for disciplinary action without this evidence that is required, technical evidence, pwede na. Okay? Now, kaya going back to that, yung alam nyo kaya importante like yung learner management system, yung ating mga, when we ask the students to create their, for example, Zoom accounts and they need to register, they need to you have to be, for whatever siguro scheme that you will use, the school should be assured, no, that it is really the student that use that, that is using that account. So you can require, for example, registration, the emails that they use for opening Zoom accounts. Or they can use it the same email account in accessing learner management system. You just have to restrict na para walang outsiders na. But there are things that are beyond your control. For example, it is the student who shared the password to another person. Di ba? Wala na tayong control doon. No, but at least you limit. Kasi pagka it's open to everyone, sinend mo lang yung link ng Zoom ng teacher and anyone can access just relying on the name that is being used by the student, hindi yan reliable. Lalo na kung ina-allow mo pa na i-off ang camera. Nangyari po yan just very recently. A school asked for my assistance. During a class, merong nag-chat na bata, naka-off ang camera in the middle of the class, nagsabi ng mga inappropriate lines, bastos, binabastos yung teacher, in other words. Sex tayo ma'am, ganyan-ganyan. It's really out of topic. It is the name of the student who appears there. It is the Zoom account of the student. Ang sabi ng parent, hindi yan anak ko, hinak yung kanyang ano. Kung sasabihin natin, hindi naman mahirap naman i-hack ang Zoom. Ngayon, ang tanong sa school, paano mo na sigurado na yun nga yung estudyante? Meron ka bang way? Ngayon, kung ikaw ay hindi mo nire-register yung ginagamit officially ng mga estudyante, talagang wala kang paraan. Anyone could have, di ba, sent that message using the name of a student. Anyway, lumalayo na tayo. So, yun lang, para hindi kayo masyadong nag-worry on technicalities. No? Substantial proof lang naman kailangan natin for student discipline. But you can go to law enforcement agencies that specialize on that. Itanong nyo kay Miss Annie Kagiwa, andito kanina nakita ko. Pero yata silang kabisado na yata nila kung anong gagawin dyan. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Attorney. There's this question from Ateneo de Iloilo that the school has identified some don'ts during online classes. If there is some violation, are they violating parang the rights of the children?
Hindi naman kasi kung yun na nga, if you have a policy na do's and don'ts, no? Syempre dapat dapat may consequence yon if they violate it. Otherwise, it will not deter them, no, from violating it. Walang teeth, no? Dapat may consequence, just like any other violation of school policy. And the sanction should be commensurate on the violation, di ba? So wag namang sobra. Enough lang to deter the student from committing it again, but not too much naman, no, to traumatize and penalize the student. Reform lang ang kailangan natin. By the way, kasi we are already mentioning schools here that ask for questions. Ano po yung pong ating mga schools na nagtatanong whether it's a theoretical question or an actual case in your school, yung pong mga sinasagot ko dito, do not take it as a legal advice, no? I'm just sharing legal information. You feel free to act on it or just note it. But if you want, you can validate it with your own lawyers and take their advice if you have, no? Kasi I'm not your lawyer. You have your own lawyers unless you engage me, di ba? But if you find the information that I shared to be helpful and you can act on it already, feel free to do that. No, but if you have counsel, take their advice. Feel free to disregard what I say because I only give information based on the limited information that you're also sharing now based on comments dito. I may not have full grasp of all, di ba, factual circumstances. Haba ng disclaimer. Sige na, Ma'am Tina.
I think sir, I think attorney kasi siguro sa situation now online na nasa bahay and then dapat no eating pero nandyan ka sa bahay, so parang medyo mahirap siguro for some students, no? And I guess some teachers and schools are also having difficulty being strict about some of their do's and don'ts. Attorney, may isang tanong dito. Are we allowed to record a class during the synchronous modalities?
Yes and no. Okay. Again, it depends on the purpose. If we're talking about privacy na naman, no, data privacy, there should be a purpose. It should be in the policy. If it is related, if the delivery of the education, no, cannot be done unless you process the information, in this case recording, then you have to do it regardless whether there is consent or not. But if it is not necessary, yung alam mo yung extra na lang, you have to get the consent of the students there and their parents. No? So that's the test. No? I hope nakukuha ninyo, di ba? Kasi kung hindi naman necessary, hindi mo kailangan i-process information niya. Ngayon, ang personal information now that is relevant to that question is the video, yung bata, di ba? That's personal information. Is it necessary to record it? No. Ngayon, depending nga sa purpose and the activity. Sabi ko kanina, if it is synchronous, it is necessary that their videos are taken. Now, to record it is another matter. Normally, ano bang purpose sa ating mga educators dito? Why do we record classes? For the others to catch up in case they miss. Di ba? Pero, ililimit mo na yung access ngayon. Sino lang ang pwedeng magkaroon ng access doon? Sino lang pwedeng mag-view? At kung hanggang kailan lang yung recording na yan? At saan maa-access? Dapat maliwanag yon. Like for example, I think the better thing to do is i-record it pero yung LMS ang magre-record, nakastore dun sa managed LMS. At doon i-access ng mga nakamiss ng klase. But only for a limited time. It is automatically erased after a certain period. Bahala na kayo. Kung ilang days or a week. But it is automatic. Hindi pwedeng recorded there in perpetuity. It also violates privacy. Okay? Now, dapat may instruction ka din para saan yung pag-record na that it cannot be shared to others. It is only for the students that they can view, they can review class. Actually, kung sasabihin ng ibang school, wala nang magre-record kahit nakamiss ng klase. Diba? Who will say that it is illegal? Bakit dun sa actual classes pagka ikaw ba hindi biglang lumipad yung utak ng bata at hindi nakinig, pwede bang sabihin mo, ma'am, replay? Wala namang ganun di ba? So again, it depends on the purpose. Ngayon, I think it is also fair to ask, is it okay for parents and students to record the lecture of the teacher while it is ongoing? Just to be fair, kasi it also happens without their knowledge. And of course, it also violates privacy. Pero hindi data privacy yon. Hindi siya Data Privacy Act kasi yung estudyante at yung magulang, they're not personal information controllers under the law. But there is a privacy issue there. Kasi dapat hindi nakukuhanan ng video yung teacher nang hindi niya alam di ba? Ngayon, dapat hindi ina-allow yon. So pwede kayo magkaroon ng policy that disallows it. Recording of the teacher. Alam niyo, bukod sa privacy pagdating sa teacher, yung actual na lecture niya, bukod doon sa privacy niya na ni-record mo at baka mamaya i-post mo sa Facebook yung ginagawa ni teacher. Bukod doon, there is also an intellectual property issue. Because what is being discussed there is part of intellectual property of the teacher. How she explains, how she analyzes things. It may be used. It may be used by another person for the same purpose of teaching or giving out lectures. Diba? And it violates intellectual property. Ang daming problema, no? Anyway, yon ang sagot. I hope may napulot kayo.
So the answer is yes and no for so many reasons pala, attorney.
Depends on the purpose.
Okay, thank you. May follow-up question, attorney, dun sa IP address. Is that considered substantial evidence? I guess if it's a
I think it's
cybercrime.
more than it is more than substantial. Baka ano na yun, conclusive na yun kasi 'di ba yung IP yun there is a way to it cannot be parang 'di ba that person cannot say hindi ako yan kasi na-trace doon merong yung IP address is unique 'di ba? So that's really conclusive. But if you do not have the technical competency to do that and expertise to do that, yun lang sinasabi ko kanina, you don't need to go to that extent na iniisip mo, hindi ko madidisiplina yung bata unless ma-determine ko yung IP sa kanya. Pwedeng may mga circumstantial evidence no? That would lead you to believe na siya na nga yun. No?
Okay, thank you, attorney. Ito yung from our Facebook comments naman. What if a student sent a message to everyone? Siguro this is during a Zoom meeting, making the teacher a laughing stock during an online class. So it's the disciplinary action is the teacher's prerogative, right? Thank you po.
Well, I go back to that simple comment na what they cannot do in person, they cannot do it online. No? Hindi mo ibig sabihin they're doing it online. It makes it proper. Di ba? That's a misconduct. While you're having a class, you cannot make fun of the teacher. Di ba? You cannot talk to your classmates. Ganun din. So, kaya sabi ko, come up with policies. Lalo na, especially that regulate the conduct of the students. Kasi hindi mo rin sila makontrol. Mas mahirap sila i-control because they're remote. Diba? So, come up with policies to guide them. Kasi ano sila some of the students really need guidance. Lalo na yung mga bata pa, mga minors. No? Yun kaya lagi kong sinasabi yung mga nakaka-attend ng mga lectures ko before. Diba sabi ko, ang tip talaga, diba, to avoid yung mga disciplinary infractions, never leave the students interacting among themselves unsupervised. Kasi pag walang teacher, pero ginather mo sila sa isang lugar, magkakaroon ng away, magkakaroon ng property violations, may nawala ng gamit, etc. So kung hindi mo sila ma-supervise, wag mo na silang pagsamahin sa isang lugar. The same principle applies when you are online. If you cannot supervise them, wag mo na silang i-gather. No, but when you gather them, come up with policies that supervise their activities. So, halimbawa, kung yun ang problema nyo, making fun of the teacher, edi sabihin niyo, do not use the chat button to chat with your classmates while class is ongoing. You only use it for the following reasons. Going for a restroom break, etc. But you cannot use it to chat with your classmates privately while the class is ongoing. Ang dami kong schools naming client schools ganyan ginagawa. It's a reasonable policy. Di ba? And mas madali ka na ngayong i-call their attention and impose disciplinary sanctions, no, so that they don't repeat it. Para bang ang lalabas kung ganun ba ang tanong is, are they implying na it violates privacy of the student because the school can see the chat message on the chat box making fun of the teacher? Ano ba naman yun? Wala nang saysay ang eskwelahan kung hindi mo ma-call yung attention ng misconduct ng bata, 'di ba, online.
Attorney, follow up to that, no? If like what you're saying, if the students do misconduct online and the teacher's not around and something happens, is the school liable for like anything bad that happens to the student due to this misconduct?
If it is proven that the school is negligent, kasi di ba, remember, we are in loco parentis. No? Yung in loco parentis, it is both a source of a right and a source of liability. It is a source of a right because as special parents, you exercise parental authority over your students while they are under your supervision, instruction, or custody. It is also a source of liability because if something happens to another student because of your failure to discipline a student, then you are liable for damages, civil damages. So yung tanong mo, iniwan mo yung class, tapos and you're found negligent, you're not supposed to be leaving the class online, you're supposed to supervise it, but you failed to supervise and something happened. Ano yung something happened? Hindi naman yung something happened na nadulas yung bata sa sahig. Walang kinalaman yung teacher doon kasi wala naman siya doon sa bahay. Ang sinasabi natin something happened, kung yung bata na yon ay nakasakit sa mga kaklase niya through online, di ba? Yun na nga, nag-send ng kalokohan or whatever, di ba? Nag-cause ng emotional harm, psychological harm sa ibang kaklase because of your failure, your negligence in leaving the class, you may be held liable for whatever civil damages that have been incurred by the student because of your failure to discipline. But then again, ano yan? Negligence has to be proven. No? And syempre ang defense doon is ordinary diligence, no? Reasonable diligence. So coming up with policies, that's a manifestation of diligence. Kung wala kang policies in place, red flag yan at may nangyari. Walang proper, kasi pwede mo naman iwan yung klase, lalo na dun sa mga more advanced na mga estudyante, mga minor pero hindi na tender age, may discernment na. Pwede mo silang iwan but you leave instructions. Di ba? And that they need to follow. It avoids now damages. But if you do it for students or pupils of tender age, hindi sufficient yung instruction na yan. That may still be considered negligence on your part. Sabi mo, naglagay po ako instructions dun sa screen mga do's and don'ts while I'm not around, while I'm away. Ang estudyante mo grade 1 o kinder. Wala yun, di nila papansinin yun. Di ba? Anyway, lumalayo na ako.
Okay. Thank you, attorney. So it's really still the policy that we need to go back to, that the schools have to come up with clear policies, especially for their online classes. Okay, thank you. Siguro we have one more time for one more question. Meron dito, it came out both in the Facebook and the YouTube. What message can you give? Parang inspirational message daw, attorney, na pwede mong ibigay and advice for our teachers, students, pupils, and the people who are affected by this COVID pandemic. Ano hong advice ang pwede niyong ibigay sa kanila?
Alam nyo, pare-pareho ata tayo naghahanap ng ng inspiration. Siguro that's the key, no? If you're looking for a motivation or passion, especially kung nasa education sector ka, just find the passion and meaning in what you do so that you continue. You don't only continue but you try to improve the things that you do. Kasi ang isang maganda rito, once we are able to hurdle this pandemic, we will be better. I'm sure of that. So don't fold up. Kasi if you fold up, wala, talo ka na But I'm sure. You know why? Because we're talking about future proofing nga Alam nyo kung sa susunod ito mangyayari, alam na natin. And for sure, we will encounter the same problems pero hindi ganito ka-drastic. Di ba? Everything happening all at the same time. It's like a perfect storm. So we will be better. We will be stronger. So yun siguro ang kasi ako I take motivation in that that mindset na after this it will be better. So I just try to pursue and move forward so that I see that that time when everything will be better. And I'll be a better educator, I'll be a better lawyer, I'll be a better person.
Thank you so much, attorney. If they have specific questions, siguro concerning their schools, is it possible that they approach you or ask you directly?
Yeah, okay lang naman. They can send dun sa merong Facebook page in my name. You can send it there or you can also go to our website, yung website ng law office, www.estradaaquino.com. May mga forms doon if you want to have a formal consultation or inquiry. But if you just need information, mga quick queries, you can send me message doon sa messenger ng FB page. Kung friends tayo sa Facebook, pwede din. Kaya lang, pasensya na kayo, minsan hindi ko agad masagot at talagang patong-patong ang mga questions, lalo na kung mahaba. So, better also to email me. You can ask the CAP Secretariat. I'm giving them naman the permission to share my email address. So, if you have formal queries, you can also reach me there. Okay, hindi ko nabibigay yung cellphone ko at baka lalong hindi ko masagot kayo sa dami. Okay, thank you, Ms. Tina.
Okay, thank you very much, Attorney Estrada. So this ends our question and answer portion. I'd like to apologize for those we were not able to accommodate for the questions. Now, again, remember that the link to the evaluation and certificate of this webinar is posted in the comments section. After the evaluation, a certificate of your attendance will be sent to your email. Okay, at this point, to give us a synthesis of today's webinar, let us welcome the Advocacy and Information Management Officer of CEAP, Mr. Carlo Abadines.
Right, so good morning to everyone and congratulations to CEAP 6 for the wonderful webinar. Of course, kay Attorney Erap, it's a difficult task now of synthesizing everything no, that you said, but it was really a wonderful and informative webinar. No, I guess for those who've heard me in other forms, no, I usually give 3 points. No, just to summarize, I guess things that we can take out from webinars, and I'll do the same. No, for this webinar conducted by CEAP6. I guess the first one really is the blurring of the division between what is digital and what happens physical. No, but I think in the online learning we were forced to confront those realities, right? That the real world is not anymore just the physical, right? What you in their interactions, the real world now begins to integrate the digital. No, everything that happens in the internet suddenly becomes part of our world, and now we are confronted with how to negotiate new ways of relating with each other and whatnot. No, so what we used to find offline now find itself online, and now we are confronted with questions of how to navigate that kind of complexity. No, so in that the same viciousness, maybe the bad things that happen offline like bullying, sexual harassments, we are also seeing move to the online world. No, and in that sense, that's what we are confronted with, and the pandemic has accelerated that even further, considering the fact that majority of us are now finding ourselves interacting online, no, to make sure that the virus does not spread. No? So what does that mean now that the lines are blurred? The first really is that it tells us that we have to engage and confront it. No, we need to make new policies. Maybe we need to educate our students in a very specific way of how to conduct. So citizenship is not anymore something in the offline, but it's something that happens online now. No, so this even in issues of sexual harassment, it requires us to educate boys and men on how to respect women and how to conduct themselves properly, on how to be good persons. No? And I think as Catholic educators, that's a very critical task for us. Part of the education might also look at if we teach people to lock their doors and to watch out for their things physically, maybe that's also something that we have to tell people you should do online as well, right? Be careful about your passwords. Don't be negligent about this. No? So that's my first point. The blurring of what we consider what is digital and what is physical. No, they're both now part of what we say the real world. No, in that sense. The second point, I think, is more towards the internal. In that sense, we do have a responsibility now that as we form netizens, we also need to form netizens who are knowledgeable about their rights and responsibilities. No, so in that sense, it's not anymore something that is just an add-on to what they learn. No, it seems to be now a critical aspect of how to form citizens. That being a digital citizen also has its rights to speak up, to say what you want to say, but also there's responsibilities. No, so in that sense, that's a challenge of formation. No, and when I was listening to the question and answer, I was thinking, oh, maybe beyond just the legalities, what we are facing right now is a question of formation, right? How do we then form our young people to be respectful so that when they're respectful offline, they also learn to be respectful online in this sense. No? So I guess because it's online, it's easy to forget that it's impersonal, behind scenes. Yun yung nangyayari sa mga kabataan. No? But I guess if we teach them what it means to be responsible for your words, to know the implications and the consequences of what you say, I think, and even for parents, di ba, yung sharenting, right? Those kinds of things, I think, needs now to be part of the education system of how we form people. No? And that requires self-awareness, how does social media shape your feelings, your impulses, what you feel at the moment when you see an angry post. Diba? This is the kind of self-awareness now that is being required and asked of young people. And I think as Catholic educators, we do have a big role in that formation, right? Social media is affecting how we relate with each other, how we react to things, and even the pace of reflection. Minsan, di na natin iniisip, galit tayo, magpo-post. But maybe we need to teach also to learn how to step back, no? To slow down a bit, no? And think about their consequences. So the blurring of worlds. The second is that netizens also need to know their rights and responsibilities. And I think the last point that I just want to raise, and this was something that Father Jobert raised at the start of our webinar about Fratelli Tutti. And I think the challenge now of Catholic educators is, okay, with all these technologies, with now what we are faced with as digital citizens, how do we then teach young people how to be pushers, no, of the common good, no, of fraternal of goodness, no? How do we make sure that citizenship, no, that cares for the common good, that cares for the poor, that shows political love, no, or social friendship? How do we make sure that that is something that we see coming out as Christian educators? No? So I guess those are just some synthesis points, no, challenges to us, especially as Christians, as Catholics. We are being invited to build, no, a world that is more compassionate and more life-giving and loving, no, to that extent. So I guess that's just some of my points that I got from the very, very informative webinar of the so, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abadines. And in behalf of CEAP 6 Regional Council, thank you everybody for joining us today. To formally end our webinar and lead us in our closing prayer, let us welcome Sister Remy Villaraiz, RVM. She will then be followed by the CEAP hymn.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. We praise and thank you, our Holy Triune God, for the success of our webinar today, for the gift of our resource speaker and the participants, and the available technology that brought us together as one. We pray that you continue to bless and guide our Catholic institutions, that they may endure in witnessing to what is good and what is true. May everything that we realized and learned in our webinar today bear fruits in our ministry and in our personal lives. We pray for strength and more love and hope as we continue to face the invitations and challenges of life. Through the intercession of our Blessed Mother Mary and Saint Joseph, we pray. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Sa biyaya ni Kristo, ang kabataan may hamon at alam sa ating bayan, maging lingkod at tulad ng pagbabago sa misyon sa mundo. Birhen Maria ang gabay at ang modelo. May bagong anyo. Servisyong totoo